If you like music and you like podcasts and you like to laugh and you like to learn, you need to immediately subscribe to One Hit Thunder. Each week on the One Hit Thunder podcast, we dive deep into the story and back catalog of a one-hit wonder band or artist. From there, we have a good, healthy discussion as to whether they brought the one-hit thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. We have a huge back catalog, and we've done episodes on everything from Don't Worry, Be Happy and the Macarena to King of Wishful Thinking and Cumbersome. I promise you're going to love the show more than Jaquan loved getting tipsy, and even more than Bobby Boris Pickett loved making alternate versions of the Monster Mash. Subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, Matt, I feel like I haven't seen you forever. For the listeners, we've never left. But you know, we did our block recording months ago.
Yeah.
And we've done like 2 or 3 little things. We got to meet face to face
in Wayne
at my first Wheatus show, which was really exciting. But yeah, this is the first time in a while we're sitting down for like a block recording.
For a block, yeah. We did the one-off with Chris for
Yes.
last week's Eat It episode. But yeah, no, this is the first. We're diving into a new record head first now.
And
all in.
And let's get into it, right? This opening song, Eat It's the opening song, but this song, Midnight Star.
Yes.
Here's the information I have about this. For starters, it was one of the first originals recorded for the album. Now, as we know with Al, he does the originals first and the parody second. So it's possible that this was the first song recorded at all for In 3D. It's a loving ode to supermarket tabloids. They made up a fictional one called Midnight Star. But in the liner notes of Permanent Record, Al stated that it was primarily about Weekly World News. Specifically, the article about the Incredible Frog Boy helped inspire the song. And according to him, most of the tabloid headlines that are mentioned in the song are all real. He spent weeks collecting and looking through old tabloids to find the insane titles. Here's the big one. Initially, he thought that Midnight Star would be the lead single for the album, but relented and released Eat It instead. And not to play my hand too early here, but what a mistake, because this is arguably the best song on this entire album. This song fucking rules.
This is a great song. It's interesting. I'm glad you said that, because I do know that was documented, but I heard Al said that on stage. He played this song at the first time I saw him on the Vanity tour, and he said on stage that he was really pushing for this to be the debut single from this record, and the label convinced him to do Eat It. And by Al's admission, he said they were probably right.
Probably, but this is such a strong song.
It's super strong. I mean, it's interesting to think about, like, this is going to come up a ton as we continue here, but like in the grand scheme of Al's career, the originals, only a couple originals have ever had any traction on radio or as a single.
Yes.
It's really, really rare. And if he had done this, I don't know. I mean, we don't get to see that. Like, it's interesting to know, like, would that have changed his career path significantly? Would it have tanked? Would he have not had the success that he had with now? Because Eat It, as we discussed, is like, that's the song that really establishes him.
Yeah. It's crazy that I'm going to make this comparison.
Yeah.
But it totally makes sense. It's almost like the Goo Goo Dolls, right? Like, all things considered, the Goo Goo Dolls, I don't know if they still are. I haven't listened to a new album by the Goo Goo Dolls in forever. But for many, many records, well into them being at the peak of their popularity, there's 2 singers in the Goo Goo Dolls. It's
true.
But every single song that is a hit single that's released by the band is Johnny singing.
Right.
And if most people just assume Johnny's the lead vocalist, I'm pretty sure at this point when they play live, he's primarily the main singer throughout the band. Maybe the bassist gets like 1 or 2 songs and like
That's a good question. I don't
2-hour
know.
set.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about. I did hear a couple of those early Goo Goo Dolls records, and I knew what you were talking about, but I haven't followed them too well. But you're right. It is a weird thing that like
you can't help but wonder, like, if Goo Goo Dolls had followed up Name with any one of the bassist's songs, it could have established them as a group with two vocalists, the same way that like Blink-182 did. Like they would kind of alternate between like a Tom song and a Mark song on the single releases.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this was, because this is so early in his career, I wonder if Midnight Star coming out as the lead single, maybe it wouldn't have been the massive success that Eat It ultimately became, but I think it would have established him as the Weird being more than just parodies.
Yeah,
to the general public.
Because to the general public, again, I think there are loads of people who don't even know that he writes original songs at all. Yeah. I feel like I encounter that in people all the time, that they just assume everything he does is a parody of something else. You know, if you're not an album person with him, if you have only heard his biggest songs, you're going to really only know parodies, with the only exception being maybe Dare to Be Stupid, which was close enough to Devo that I think some people might even think it is a parody.
And even that, like Dare to Be Stupid, it's like, as big as that song is to a lot of people, part of that's even just because it was in the Transformers movie that like a generation of kids grew up on. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's funny that you bring that up, because this song isn't a style parody. It's one of the two originals that aren't style parodies, but I feel like it sounds so specific, and I can't put my finger on what band this sounds like to me.
I remembered hearing a while ago. So this is like, you know, it's funny because now I feel like we've gotten so much better with the information. I remember early on in internet looking into Al years, you know, I was probably a teenager still maybe, and I found a website where they went really far out of their way to try to attribute every single one of Al's originals as some form of style parody.
Yeah.
And Al has disproven that now. He has just straight up said some songs are just outright originals. I think he even has said this song particularly, he has shouted out as this is a parody of nothing. This is just an original song. But on that person's list, I feel like I remember them saying that they chalked this up to Springsteen, which I don't really hear. I mean, it has some of that anthemic rock quality to it, the piano part.
Yeah.
I can sort of get some E Street Band vibe going on here, but this would be a pretty loose Bruce Springsteen homage.
The only way you can do a Springsteen homage is like Adam Sandler. Maybe we'll do a bonus episode or a bonus series when we're done all of the Al stuff. Just dedicate it to Adam Sandler's one album, What's Your Name, which is all original songs and no sketches.
Yeah.
But he does a song called Lonesome Kicker that is a Bruce Springsteen style parody.
There you go.
It's 7 minutes long. It's got the ballady piano before the whole band kicks in. But more importantly than anything, if you're gonna do a style parody of Bruce, you have to do the Bruce voice. And there's no Bruce voice anywhere.
You have to do the Bruce voice, and arguably you have to have a saxophone solo.
You need a sax solo.
This is missing. It is disqualified.
But you know what's funny is Springsteen did jump into my mind when I was trying to think of what this reminded me of, because of that keyboard. Because of that, like, dun, 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 like, it almost has like a... But then I realized that it's just because that's the sound of 84.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, this just reminds me of like all of the 70s rock that was slowly morphing into 80s music. So it's like a little bit of Meatloaf in there, a little bit of Springsteen, but this is, you're right, there is no true style parody. The construction of this song, though, dude, I wrote in all caps, yo, that key change. Like, when they do that key change towards the end of the song, it's unbelievable. This song is incredible.
Yeah, this is really like, this is a really well-written song. I mean, it's great. It's funny and it's weird, as you'd expect him to be, but it is also just in terms of a composition and a piece of, like you said, it has all of these markers of very 80s production and songwriting, which is why we're associating with Springsteen and these types of things, but it's very just of the moment. It's fantastic. It's really, really well done. The modulation in it, it's just beautifully composed. It's really like, I have done this before where this song, I'm not even talking about my rankings for this show, but this is a song where if somebody said to me that they wanted to hear more from Al, or they wanted to learn more about him and his vibe and what he does aside from the parodies, this is high up on the list
Oh, for sure.
Listen to this song and hear how great a pop songwriter he can be.
Yeah. As of right now, where we're at we're doing this. Normally, we would record one full album in a sitting. We're doing it in 2 halves, and because of such, I only listen to the half that we're doing. Right now, where I'm sitting, I feel like this is definitely my favorite original on the album. There's a later one that I definitely need to re-listen to. I could see this genuinely being top 10 or top 20 when we're done the entire discography still. Like, this is a fucking bop.
It's a strong possibility. This is a really, really good, so this is, again, we could leach into other episode territory here. A lot of the originals on this record I find really interesting for different reasons, and we're going to approach a couple of, they touch a lot of different markers. This is an album where, revealing a little bit more, I think that the originals on this record really shine more than a lot of the parodies do. The originals on this record, I think, are really, really good, and I actually do think that this plays a huge part in why this record is, even ignoring the success of Eat It, a part of why this cements him is that it does also show to at least fans, people who give him the chance and buy this record and throw it on, that he is not a one-trick pony.
No.
He is not taking currently popular songs and making them about food, and that's not his entire game.
Yes.
At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not what I wear.
And they also say things like,
The nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
Every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why did my facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods?
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
I said this right when we were about to record, but I do think in 3D, even before I started listening to it, I remembered this being an album that I would have put right in the center. I think that while it's got a lot of the highest highs for Al, I also think it has a handful of some of the lowest lows for Al.
I think I might favor the record overall a little more than you. I think this is solidly in the top 50% of his records.
Okay.
Again, we're not through the whole thing yet.
We'll see.
So
I mean,
maybe my opinion will change as we continue here. But that's in my perception right now, that this ranks in the better half.
Yes.
Of his catalog.
I would agree with that. I want to go on a little non-Al related tangent.
Great. I love these.
Let's talk Weekly World News for a little bit.
Sure.
Were you a Weekly World News guy?
No, I never, aside from being, my only memory of tabloids ever is being a child and staring at them curiously.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever purchased one in my life. I know I have never purchased one in my life.
I was Mr. Weekly World News. Me and my brother.
Yeah.
My brother has a full Bat Boy tattoo on his leg because of how much we used to get Weekly World News magazine as a kid.
Wow.
I actually donated. Well, I interviewed the editor-in-chief of Weekly World News for Horror Movie Night when they were running a Kickstarter campaign to bring back the magazine in a digital format.
Oh, that's awesome.
And part of the, so then I had to donate to the campaign because for, I want to say it was like $30, they sent you a coffee table book of every front page in the history of Weekly World News.
Oh, man.
And I've probably got like 3 or 4 coffee table books just dedicated to Weekly World News, like articles. And I think I went through these phases where I was fascinated by it because it was like, how could someone believe this?
Yeah.
But then as I got older, I just really grew to appreciate how sharp the satire truly was in what Weekly World News was doing. But like, as he's making these references, I'm like, yep, I've read that article. Like, I know that one. Like, it's insane. And yeah, he's telling the truth. Every headline that he mentions is somewhere in the history of Weekly World News for sure.
And this is what's so interesting about it, because it is like, this is a great example of like, he is writing a song about counterculture.
Yes.
Is really what the tabloids are. And that's the sort of thing that I did not appreciate as a kid when I really thought about them or when I knew this song, you know. It just seemed like goofy headlines to me, but yeah, it's this like it just comes up more and more with him, and as an adult listening to his lyrics and the things that he is interested in and that he likes to talk about, it's all different types of embracing counterculture.
Yeah.
And this is a huge example of that, and it's funny because it's told from a sort of neutral perspective.
Yeah.
Almost, right? Like
I mean, it feels like it's loving. It feels like he at least gets the joke of what Weekly World News is trying to do.
Yeah.
Weekly, it's funny, too, because, like, with Horror Movie Night, I've covered this a couple times now, where there are just so many, especially 90s, early 90s movies, where Weekly World News is, like, a key plot point in the film. And the biggest one that jumps to my mind is So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Oh,
where, like,
you know what? I was just going to say another big one is Men in Black.
Men in Black, you know, like all of those, there's a lot of movies where it's like the joke is like, oh, this stuff that no one believes is actually only
true.
like true news. Yeah, like,
which is kind of the crux of the joke of this song as well. I guess that's the perspective of our protagonist in this song.
For sure.
Yeah, this person letting you know, like, oh, did you realize that all of this is actually happening?
Yeah, they're keeping Hitler's brain alive inside of a jar.
Inside a jar, yeah.
The other thing that I think is really funny, as you're talking about like how this covers the counterculture, I realized today that I always thought that Midnight Star was an actual magazine that he was writing about, but there's another song on this album that's a person's name that I thought was a made-up person, but it's the opposite. This is a made-up magazine, but he's singing about an actual human being.
Oh, there you go. One. Yeah, I guess I didn't know either, because again, I was not as involved I didn't really know the tabloid world very well, so I probably did for many years assume that this was a real thing. Although now in hindsight, it makes total sense that he couldn't specifically reference an existing publication.
Because I was thinking, I hadn't really sat down and paid attention to the lyrics on this one for a while. So like my memories of the song, having not revisited in a while, and just the name Midnight Star, was that I thought it was like I thought it was about like a similar tabloid as like the National Enquirer, right? Where it's like, it's not as outrageous as Weekly World News, but it's like super trashy, gossipy celebrity talk. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
But then I'm like listening to the song today and I'm like, oh no, this is 1000% Weekly World News that he's writing a song about.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great. I feel like it. Yeah, you know, we led with how much we love this song. I love this song. It's a great sweet spot for him where it's not too goofy. It's not too dumb. They're not like, it's not a song where like I liked it as a kid and now I look back I'm like, that's pretty stupid.
Yeah.
Like this is just a really interesting subject to write about. The headlines, some of them are legitimately funny. And again, it's a brilliantly well-written song.
The construction of the actual song is really the star of this. And like I said, there's that key change, or the modulation, I guess is the proper phrase for when it bounces up. And it's like that happens, and like at the exact same time that happens, they repeat the chorus, and now there's this like deep bassy backup vocal that starts to come in at that time.
Steve J, I think, is doing he usually does those low BVs, yeah.
I was thinking that was Steve J, and then there's a little guitar lick that I think, I want to know your opinion. Mm-hmm. That guitar riff that kicks in for like 10 seconds, you think Jim West or Rick Derringer?
I think that's gonna be Jim West. Although I guess I don't know. I probably could go either way.
I checked I checked the liner notes to see if it called out anything specifically, and all it said was that Rick Derringer played guitar on the album at times. But I was like, if he played guitar on anything on this album, I feel like that little guitar riff sounds like him.
I wonder if there was, or even just overdubs and stuff. I don't know. It's a good question, because this is a somewhat, well, it's interesting because this is probably in a lot of ways, a less guitar-heavy record.
Yeah.
There's a lot of synths on this record. It's a very keyboard-heavy, which, again, is 80s. It's, like, fits the sound. Not to say there's not guitars, but I feel like there's actually less than the debut record. I could be wrong about that. That's just my perception right now.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think because again, we referred to the previous record as a very punk rock record, and I think part of that is because there's so much guitar kind of scattered around there. This is a very 80s record.
Sure.
And there's still some punk attitude in this for sure. But not nearly like that self-titled.
Yeah. So I guess this also would qualify. We were talking about like the self-titled record is all accordion all the time. This would be his first original.
Oh, without
where
an
there's
accordion.
no accordion.
Yeah.
Because this is all keyboards he was playing at this point.
Yeah, you're right.
So
I
that's an
didn't even
interesting
think about that.
change,
Look at that.
which is another big marker for him. That was another. We're talking about like at this point in his career, how is this going to move? And he's now not, just the accordion player doing goofy versions of songs. This is like a major move in a new direction.
No, I think you're right. Let's talk some rankings because this is our first original song against all of the previous original songs rankings. I know where this is going for me, but I'm curious where it's going for you.
Okay, so I believe my currently top ranked original song is "I'll Be Mellow When I'm Dead."
Correct.
It's "I'll Be Mellow When I'm Dead," and then what's underneath that?
Mr. Frump in the Iron Lung.
Mr. Frump. I am going to put this at position 2.
Okay. I am also putting mine at position 2, below Checks in the Mail.
Below Checks in the Mail.
The episodes kick off with the song for a little bit before we get into the conversation. And even when I started editing it, I was like, oh, man, I really hate that I have to fade out of this song because I want to just listen to it from front to back. Checks in the Mail, just based on my pure love of that type of music, is going to... It might not be my number 1, but that thing is going to be hanging into the top 10 for a really
That's totally
long
fair.
time.
I love that ranks so high for you because I feel like that's a real dark horse candidate.
No, it's never going to be my number 1. But
it is right now.
No, that's true. It's currently my number 1. At the end of this, it will not be my number 1.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I'm
Spoilers
open
for
to
the
it
future.
being number 2 or 3 even. Like I think it's going to rank real fucking
No,
high. when
I
this
love
is
that
done.
it's so high for you. That's great. And "I'll Be Mellow When I'm Dead" is another that's just like I don't know. That's a real that one's near and dear to my heart for any number of reasons. But this is really like this is Midnight Star is top tier stuff. This is
I agree.
Really, really good.
I agree.